Hi, this is Dr. Leslie Allen, and in this video, I'm going to go through a case report. This is a patient who came to me and was suffering from endometriosis. She was diagnosed in 2010, and she was really struggling with weight loss resistance, and no matter what she was doing. So, eating super healthy, participating in high intensity exercise, and the weight still was not coming off. So, what we did, first of all, her current symptoms, we did a deep dive into her medical history utilizing a program, and her current symptoms that she reported is that she struggled with IBS. She also was diagnosed with hypothyroid. She had food allergies, specifically to soy, was struggling with some high blood pressure, anxiety, ringing in her ears, depression, and her abdomen would bloat every time that she ate. So, looking into some of the triggers, what did she feel like might have facilitated these changes with her health? She had suffered from some pretty high stress levels during that period of time, just prior to 2010. She went through a divorce. She had a very high stress job through the pandemic, and also was a caregiver during that period of time to an elderly member of the family. So what we did, we started to investigate. This medical symptom questionnaire is a standardized tool that is very easy to use in order to track symptoms based on categories that the client reports. So for her, she scored coming in at a 72. Her highest categories were her digestive tract, where she scored a 17. Next up was her energy and activity, where she scored 11. And the next category were emotions, so mood swings, anxiety, things to that nature. Now, from there, with this program, we're going to do a full functional medicine analysis based on that symptom report. And it allows me to plug in the symptoms into an algorithm. The algorithm is going to populate a matrix. And on that matrix, as we can see here, we have each of our biological pathways, and we can see which ones are most influenced given her symptom presentation. So for her, she had this really strong correlation between her immune system as well as her communication. So communication is your neuroendocrine system. So those hormones as well as neurotransmitters. In addition, assimilation is gut health. So your gut's ability to digest and absorb the food that you're consuming. And as you can see, we had quite a bit of involvement there. That was followed by liver detoxification. So these are phase 1 and phase 2 of liver detox. And then we have to fully eliminate for phase 3 to get the toxins out of the body. But overall, as you can see, she had quite a bit of involvement in all pathways with the exception of transport, which is typically cardiovascular and your lymphatic system. So because of the high stress and the way that stress is going to influence all areas of healing, especially from hormone perspective, but also when we're stressed, it's not a time to rest, relax, digest, or absorb. It's a time to run or fight. So we needed to check out what was going on with her adrenal glands and the stress profile. So she first began with us just doing a hormone offer where we were just going to investigate the hormones and see what that told us. So as you can see here with her saliva, we ran a DHEAS as well as 4 points of cortisol over the course of the day. So what we found out is given her age, we have a low level of DHEAS. Now, there are several different things to understand about DHEAS, and this is a hormone that's released by the adrenal cortex as well. And in addition to that, cortisol. So DHEA is released from the adrenal cortex, but it's it's a prohormone, and it's hard to collect just in its natural state of DHEA. So the easiest way to collect that is with the S added to it, and that's a process known as sulfation. So there are several different things that can influence the process of sulfating our DHEA. One of those things, and typically one of the most obvious, is gut inflammation or gut dysbiosis, can greatly influence and limit the body's ability to go through that process of sulfation. So already there, knowing that she had a high influence going on within the gut based on her symptom presentation, we could see that could be a potential source of that decreased DHEA. Now, also here, so we look at cortisol, and we can see first thing in the morning, her cortisol levels are relatively high. So this green line right in the middle, that is going to be our average range. So in the morning, she has this high spike of cortisol, which is indicative of she has a hypervigilant response to stress. So she's anticipating a lot of stress to be in her day. And so, really getting that rush of cortisol. And then as the day progresses, she just completely tanks in the production of her cortisol. So, of course, she's feeling extremely fatigued, wiped out throughout the remainder of the day. Now, the other important thing to know about cortisol is it's what's called a glucomineralocorticoid. And what that means is its job is to release glucose into the bloodstream. And so when we have this somewhat roller coaster situation or yo-yo situation of our cortisol output, then what that's ultimately going to do is it can lead to some insulin resistance, some dysregulation of that cortisol, or the glucose that's being released into the bloodstream. When we're not actually running or fighting in that situation, the glucose needs to be taken back into the cell, and that's the job of insulin. So we start to develop some insulin resistance with time. Now, that high spike in cortisol, though, and that high anticipation of stress, also coupled with her chronic stress that she was experiencing within her life, what that does is it triggers the body. We start to lay down fat specifically around the waistline, because that tends to be the easiest place to access fat for energy production, because she's telling her body, I need energy fast. I need that quick release of glucose at my disposal. So it's just adapting to what the demands that are being placed on it. So that's the information that we found out. So that could definitely be influencing the weight loss resistance. However, given the fact that she did have endometriosis, and that typically is an issue, not just with the production of your end range, your sex metabolites, your sex hormones, but it's also tends to fall with this liver detoxification and the way that our body is metabolizing the hormones. So with all of this, given the fact that she had a pretty high involvement in all pathways, and she had endometriosis, which means that there's she's laying down collagen in places that she doesn't need to. So this fibrotic material within, the uterus, it can go over the ovaries, the ureter, different things to that nature, is typically not just a hormone issue, but it's also can be a liver detoxification issue. So with this being said, and the dysregulation of the HPA axis here, we felt that it was important for her to really get to the bottom of what was going on, to dive a little deeper with further testing. So we did run an organic acids test, and what we found here is that there is certainly a reason that her body was holding on to, having some difficulty with that detoxification pathway in the gut as well, is that she scored here as off the chart for aspergillus. So she did have some mold overgrowth within. She actually, got that from her home. And so mold will actually bloom what are called mycotoxins. And those mycotoxins can really be harmful to the body. They can be known carcinogens. They will inhibit your white blood cells from replicating. So it's going to weaken your immune system with time. And it's also going to create quite a bit of gut disruption. So here you can see she was doing pretty good with her bacteria, as well as another form of bacteria called Clostridium. So what we're trying to do is really identify not just further underlying root causes to the hormone disruption, but also what was driving this endometriosis, what was driving her anxiety and her IBS, and how could we help to support her body in true healing rather than just supporting those symptoms. Now we scroll down further and we take a look at how her body is metabolizing her carbohydrates. And as you can see here, she is definitely having some issues in that area. So, carbs are a quick source of energy, and this is looking at the cellular level, what's going on once she eats and digests and absorbs her carbohydrates in those macro forms. Now, how is the cell able to break down that carbohydrate in order to produce ATP or energy to drive all cellular processes? So she has this high level of lactic acid buildup within at the cellular level, because she's having, it's called the electron transport chain, but she's having some issues with redox and passing electrons back and forth. So we certainly have to support her energy pathway and her ability to improve metabolism of carbohydrates. This was leading to very sore muscles following exercise for a very long period of time. So the smallest amount of activity while she was doing higher level exercise, it was leading to this prolonged period of, just feeling tired and weak and very sore, and creating some painful symptoms for her. Now, next up is, being able to check in with the symptoms of anxiety and see these are real-time production of our neurotransmitters. So here we can see our tyrosine dependent, tyrosine's an amino acid, and clearly she was having some conversion issues. Our dopamine gets converted into norepinephrine and epinephrine. And so she was producing a normal amount of norepinephrine, epinephrine, but very high levels of dopamine. So there was something that was restricting this conversion. And some of the things that can be, that can cause that would be, multivitamin depletion, so micronutrients. So those would be her vitamin C or perhaps copper deficiencies, was leading to a high ratio here. So she certainly had some neurotransmitter influences, in addition to having lower levels of serotonin production. So serotonin is our neurotransmitter for mood stabilization. It controls eating behaviors, and it's also the precursor to help produce melatonin, which gives us a good night's rest. Melatonin is actually going to activate our anti-inflammatory cascades and allow us to, really have that restorative sleep capacity. So, with all of this information, we were able to get her on a solid treatment plan of mold and mycotoxin detoxification and eradication, get her on a good gut health protocol, start to support some of these neurotransmitters and carbohydrate metabolism. And within a month's time, she was already noticing quite significant improvements in overall mental stability, very clear headed now. Her gut was improving, and her energy tolerance was also increasing. All right, if you're ready or struggling with any of these issues and really want to dive into the why behind your symptoms, always know that at DNA Doc, we do allow 15-minute phone consultations. You can visit our website at www.dnadoc, that's dnadoc.com, and book your 15-minute phone consultation from there. Again, this is Dr. Leslie Allen with the DNA Doc, and I hope you have a great day.